So hello and welcome to the Wednesday night meeting, and thanks for coming along. So this meeting really isn't about something. It's not even about a something coming to an end. Earlier in the week I thought to give this meeting the title The End of Seeking. But the end of seeking is that there just isn't a seeker. It just simply doesn't exist. The seeking is a response to an illusion that there is someone here who could do something to find his way to wholeness, or to find its way to what it feels is missing or lost. And the story goes, in the beginning, there is just wholeness. There is just wholeness, unknowing, boundlessness. And then at some stage, a knowing arises. And this knowing arises in the form of a contracted energy. And then from here, from out of this contracted energy, there seems to be, it seems to create the impression of something here, something existing in the body or as the body. An individual, a me, later then sort of becomes a me, a sense of something here, which then sort of takes on a personal identity. And then as apparent time goes on, then this personal identity seems to sort of accumulate more and more and more, adds more and more to itself. And as this happens, as this seems to happen, there seems to be more and more of a feeling that something's lost in that. So for the individual, or for the me, there's a feeling that the wholeness that we are all born into has somehow become lost. And that's the illusion. But just to be clear, there isn't an illusion of a person or a someone, a me, an individual as being an illusion. The illusion is that there is a person, that there is a someone, that there is an individual. Nevertheless, the body sort of seems to respond to this sense of contractedness. It sort of feels limited. So then for some people who are more sensitive, they then start seeking. They then begin to look for a reason as to why that is and what that could be about. So the individual then begins seeking. Seeking is a seeming response to this sense that there is someone or something here. And for most seekers, there can be a realization at some point that the solution to the dilemma that the individual feels it is in isn't to be found in having more of something. So the seeker then begins to look into more sort of deeper, more meaningful ways to try and satisfy that sense of loss. So for most seekers, it's beginning to look into spirituality, religion, that kind of thing. Self-help books, The Power of Now, how to be more present, how to be more awake, how to be more in the now, all of those sorts of things. And it's not that these things don't work. Sometimes they seem to work, but it's only temporary. There can be some temporary relief, but then the seeking continues. There's always this need for more. And that seeking is never satisfied. And the seeking only seemingly comes to an end with the death of the seeker or with the death of the individual. But here we come across a paradox, but only a paradox in the way that it's communicated or in the way that it sounds to the individual. And that is, when the individual dies, when the seeker dies or disappears, it's obvious or recognized that the seeker was never there. It was never real. The individual was never there, not even as an illusion. It just never existed at all. But the reason we have these meetings, the reason this conversation happens, is because from within the illusion or the dream, within the dreamt reality of the individual, it seems to be absolutely real. This sense of loss feels real. This sense of being someone on a journey to look for what it feels is missing feels real. And this feels real. For the individual, this is a real conversation happening. This is a real meeting happening. For the individual, there is a message or there is a communication. Funnily enough, when the individual dies, the message dies. It's the end of the conversation altogether because it's just over. But again, to be clear, over is that it never began. It was never really happening. The wholeness that we were all born into, or we are all born into, the unknowing home, what's longed for has never left. It's never gone anywhere. That's the illusion. The illusion is that wholeness is lost. And the message is, no, it isn't. It's already here. It's already everything. It's this. What's truly, truly longed for is this. What's already happening. It's not what the seeker wants, but it is what's truly longed for. It is home. Just this already. However it's appearing, even if it's appearing as seeking, even if it's appearing as this sort of contracted, limited sense to be a someone, to be conscious, to be present, to be aware. All of that is wholeness. All of that is unknowing. Just taking that form of the seeker, taking that form of the knowing in the tiny child, the knowing of here, the knowing of I am, the knowing that this is real, I am real and this is real. All of that is unknowing. All of that is wholeness, just appearing in that form. So there isn't a real end to something because there's no one already, which means there's no one on a journey. Which also means, and this is the awful part of the message, means there's nothing to find. There is nothing else. There is no additional awakening, realization to be had. So in that sense, there isn't a message, there isn't a communication, because nothing's lost. So feel free to ask questions if there are any questions. If not, it's fine. Feel free to do whatever you like. Question in the chat. Hi Neil, if we're not our bodies, why in fearful situations the body can be paralyzed? Another example is Vipassana, where there is a discovery of body sensations. Yes, well, that's a part of the dream, that there is something that is feeling or owning, knowing the body and having bodily sensations. That's the illusion. And the body can just react in fearful situations. It can just react and respond. The body seems to do what the body seems to do. What happens if there's an individual, or if there is a sense to be someone in the body or as the body, that then takes ownership of whatever the body seems to be doing. The individual takes ownership of everything. It claims everything as itself, just by being apparently present and experiencing that. The individual's like a reaction to a reaction, or a response to a response. The body just does what it naturally does. And then the individual then comes and claims ownership of what that is. But that's the same for everything that apparently happens. The individual just claims it, or the me just claims it as mine. It's mine. This is my life, my body, my life, my world, my universe. My time, I haven't got to watch them. My space. My hopes, my dreams, my ambitions. My endeavors, my dreams. All of that stuff is what apparently happens. The illusion is that that's happening to someone. But it's completely hopeless for the individual, completely hopeless for the me, because it's just stuck in that dualistic world. It can't get out of that. And the reason for that is the individual can only work with what it thinks it knows already. And really, all the individual would claim to know, or can claim to know, is I am something, I am real, I am here. Because that's how that feels for the individual. And that's the shock. That's the shock in the end, or it can be. Doesn't have to be a shock. Question in the chat. Hi Neil, I think the experience here is that there is a sense of being a person, but perhaps the sense of being an individual comes and goes without me really realizing it more often than I realize. Oh yes, definitely. Yeah. So my question is the contracted sense of being a self come and go, or when the contraction is there, is it always there? Or does it depend person to person, so to speak? Well, there's no rules, but the sense to be sort of present to this sort of self-awareness seems to arise with this contracted energy. Because it seems that when this contracted energy can suddenly melt back into boundlessness, and it takes the whole seemingly takes the whole sort of sense of the person, the personal identity, the personal story, all of the beliefs, all of the hopes, ambitions, dreams. It sounds awful, doesn't it? Takes it all with it, all of it. It all gets flushed down the toilet, the whole thing. But then the funny thing is that's what the seeker truly longs for. The seeker longs for the end of seeking. It just can't possibly entertain the possibility that the seeking is a response to something that isn't actually happening. Because it feels real. To the individual, it feels real. And there's some more to that. So my question is oh yes, no, I read all of that, didn't I? So yes, this sort of contracted sense to be a someone can come and go, yes, seemingly. Yeah. Other people would report that. But that's the thing, kind of in the end, it's just really not clear as to when that was happening, because it just wasn't happening to someone. There can be an apparent energetic expansion and then contraction. That does reportedly happen. Yeah, that can seemingly happen. But that's got nothing to do with the individual. That's just an apparent contracted energy, contracting and expanding. But what will happen is that sense of the sense of something being here will go with that contracted energy. And of course, what can happen is that can just seemingly melt away. And which just sort of takes with it the whole sense of presence, or of there being something present. But again, that's the seeming paradox when we talk about it, or the paradox in the communication. Because, of course, there is only boundless energy. It can appear in the form of a contraction. It can appear as the impression of that contraction as being a position or a location. That there is something here, which then seems to automatically create everything else is there, or is another something here. But the other problem is that they just have no idea what that is, that contraction in the body. There's just no idea. It just seems to be in every cell, every nerve ending, every hair. I've got many. It's just, but it sort of seems to be, I seem to always do this when I'm talking about it, seems to be just sort of something here, a sense of a center, a contracted sense of a position, of a something, which then the body then sort of assumes, or the mind then assumes, is something here. Well, this is me, this is me, this I'm here, this is me. And then the whole story of the person, the whole I am story then kind of evolves from them, apparently. Someone's got a hand up. Would you like to unmute yourself?
Yeah. Hi, Neil.
Hello.
Well, I was just going on from what you were talking about then. I was just thinking that the contraction is unavoidable for the body, and in particular because the body is conscious.
Well, seemingly so, yes, but it actually self-consciousness seems to arise with this contraction in the body.
And I'm thinking that the contraction in the body is unavoidable because the body is a contraction.
No, the body's not a contraction. No.
Really?
The body's just an appearance.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the body's just an appearance. Yeah. As is everything else.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, wild, isn't it?
Hmm. I always had the understanding that the body was contracted energy, you know.
No. What can the story goes again that this contracted energy seems to arise in the body very early on. I mean, it's really still not much more than a baby.
Mm.
This sort of it's a knowing in the form of a contracted energy, and that knowing seems to be the first thing that is seemingly known is here, something here.
So this contracted energy, is it mental? Is it mental energy?
No. It's nothing to, well, it seems to be in the body, but then one could argue, well, you know, then perhaps it is the brain that's doing it, but you know, who knows, who cares?
Well, I was thinking of it more as, is it a belief?
No, it's separation is absolutely nothing to do with the belief. No, absolutely not. No, it's just an energy, just completely unknowing, just an energy that seemingly arises.
Okay.
Because if it was a belief, then if that belief changed, then there would no longer be any sort of sense of something being here as being separate. No. It has nothing to do with any kind of mental construct. What seems to happen is that the sort of the physiology will sort of respond to that energy in some way, and it can be then that there can be sort of once there is this sort of contracted sense that something's here, there then can be kind of thoughts, ideas about that. It's almost as though the body's going, well, what is it? What is here? What is this about? What is the, you know, and as I was saying in the introduction, those who are perhaps more sensitive and begin to question into that in a kind of a deeper way, well, asking the bigger questions in life, so to speak, will then sort of begin to reflect on that. And then there can be all sorts of ideas and beliefs about, you know, what a me is and what a self is, and everything, like, you know, all of those sorts of ideas. But then when that contraction melts away, it takes all of those ideas, regardless of where really the mind is, wherever sort of one is at with their thoughts, or wherever the mind is with its ideas or beliefs about what's apparently going on. It just seems to take all of that with it, just the whole thing, because they've just got nothing to converge around anymore. But thoughts, the mind is not creating anything, so to speak, not in that way. So no, separation isn't a belief, or the me isn't a belief. It's a sense, it's something felt. And a question in the chat. Hello, can you talk about intuition resonance is the same? Or, I mean, you could say so. Yeah. Resonance, intuition. Yeah. Intuition is just an energy, and an apparent resonance is just an energy also. If you're talking about a resonance with the communication or with the message, then it's not a someone or a something resonating with the message. It's just nothing resonating. So the me has no control over the body whatsoever, but it seems self-reflection can change thoughts, feelings, and actions. Or is this just a brain function? Well, there's no me already as having control over the body. So if there is just a natural change, then there can just be a natural change. And then the thoughts or the reflecting on that change may then appear to happen. Thoughts are always late to the party. They don't seem to be creating anything. They're just sort of information about what's arising or what's appearing. So the me is entirely powerless. It's entirely powerless, entirely clueless. It doesn't actually know anything. And it's not really experiencing anything other than itself to be present to what's appearing to happen. It experiences itself as being the experiencer having an experience. But apparent change can just happen. Yeah, sure. The individual will then, of course, claim whatever change arises or whatever change appears for itself, because the individual is living along a timeline. The individual, there is a real past, there is a real future, and there is a real now, or there is a real present. So it feels that what appears or what arises is then the cause of what happens next. And that's part of the dream. Hand up, hello. Would you like to unmute yourself? I can't find you, so if you just unmute and ask your question.
I'm not sure if that's me or not.
Well, it is now.
I'm
So
not
far
sure.
away.
It feels like we're conditioned to be separate.
Separation is just, again, it's energetic. It's an energetic sense that something's here, which seems to then automatically create the sense that there's something else which isn't here. There's here and then everything else. But then, because the individual lives in a dualistic world with other individuals, then of course that sort of sense of separation can go on being reinforced by the apparent dualistic world around it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not a conditioning in the first place. It just seemingly happens for no reason at all. And seems to be unique to human beings, as far as we can know, of course.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
You don't see many self-conscious animals. Well, they don't. They certainly don't appear to be. I think it's uniquely in the human that this knowing arises with this contracted energy.
I have another question.
Sure.
So at death, there's no recognition.
Not really. No, it's a bit misleading even to say a recognition. But within the dream of the individual, then it's just not seen at all. It's just the reality for the individual is I am a someone, and this is something real. I am someone real, and this is something real. And that sense of loss that the individual feels, to which seeking is a response, is a part of that dreamt reality. The sense of loss is that wholeness is somehow lost. It seems to be with the arising of the individual that wholeness is sort of pushed away.
Yeah. That's the separation.
That's the apparent separation, because of course there is no separation.
Yeah.
Even that sense of separation is wholeness appearing as the sense that I am someone and that I need to find, I've lost something or something is missing. And I therefore then need to find something in order to make this whole again. That's wholeness too, just appearing as that lovely, horrible story.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And a comment, it can be very creative, this. Well, yes, creativity can appear, yes, of course, yeah. But there's nothing behind the creativity. There's nothing driving the creativity. There's nothing behind anything. This is completely empty. This is just a completely empty appearance. But it's whole. It's an abundance. Because nothing is lost.
Hey, Neil.
Hello.
Hey, had a question.
Sure.
Just gonna put this out there, see where it goes. But right now in
Well,
this,
it's not going to go anywhere.
yeah. So this not going anywhere, nothing interacting with nothing through nothing, nothing ever changes. But yet,
Nothing isn't interacting with nothing. There would have to be a nothing here interacting with the nothing there. There is just nothing.
so in this nothing, there's apparent change. There's an apparent interaction. And
Well, there's not two things interacting with each other. No, this is just nothing speaking. These are just sounds happening. This conversation is just nothing appearing as sounds.
so if this apparent character hears the sound of a tiger and sees an apparent tiger, or seeing takes place and there's a tiger, the response is going to be to run versus a rock.
Yes.
So
that's nothing appearing in the form of hearing a tiger and then running from a tiger. But there isn't a someone or a something, or even as a character as doing that. That's just what seemingly happens. Hearing just seemingly happens. It's not even happening to a location or a position. Because there's nothing that would actually know this body as a position or a location. That's the illusion.
So in that story of the tiger and the apparent tiger with the apparent person, that whole thing is just kind of one thing apparently taking place seamlessly, not necessarily with. It's just happening. That like everything else, it's just happening. It's just like a verb. Is that what you're saying?
That would just be nothing happening. Yeah, it would just be appearing as that. Yeah. But there would be there is nothing which knows that, or there is nothing which would experience that. There is nothing really actually experiencing that in the first place. Isn't that amazing?
It's though this whole thing is amazing. and right now, in terms of this, whatever concept that we put with this, nothing apparently happening. Would you be able to say that there's just talking? So it's not like you can't say talking to yourself. You would just say talking.
No, there isn't something there talking to something here. No. It's just sounds happening, talking happening.
Because the reason I ask is I've heard some speakers say like this is kind of like I'm taught from the speaker from the nothing point of view. Is they're like, I'm just talking to myself. This is kind of just like I'm talking to myself.
Well, that's the thing, that there isn't a point of view from nothing. That's the thing. There is no position. If nothing is appearing as everything, there's nothing is appearing as everything, then there isn't a something in that that is appearing as a separate something that is existing, which could know this nothing appearing to happen. It's just nothing.
Okay.
Yes.
Fascinating. The second question I had is regarding the health. I saw on Facebook that Nargis had a health recommendation, and I was just wondering if you
A
had
health
followed up with that.
Sorry, someone had a health recommendation.
Yeah. Nargis. I'm not sure if I'm saying her name right.
I'm not sure. Oh, what, to me?
To you? Yeah.
Well, apparently not, because I can't remember.
Oh, okay. All right. I was just wondering how that went, because she seems to be focused
Oh, okay. That's sweet of you.
on health type things. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's kind of you to ask. Thanks.
All right. Well, good to see you're back, and thank you.
Yeah, man. Cool.
Cheers.
Yeah. Thanks for asking the question. Is there another hand up, or was that the original?
Yes. Hi, Neil.
Oh,
Yeah.
hi.
Hi again. I know this is probably blasphemy, but is there
There's nothing excluded in this meeting. You can ask whatever you want.
is there any other word to use for nothing?
Well, there's just, I mean, nothing isn't really the word to describe this, or to describe nothing being everything, because it is nothing as everything. Everything is nothing, but not for the mind of the individual. They can only think of nothing as opposed to something. So
Exactly.
it's like, oh, it's just all, this is nothing. Oh, it's nihilistic and
Zero.
bleak, but no, nothing is appearing as everything. Spontaneity, creativity, majesty, aliveness, everything. Running away from tigers, all of that stuff. Yeah,
Could you say gobbledygook is appearing as everything?
yeah, of course. Yeah, you can say
Yeah.
anything. Yeah, I mean, you
could say
call this
anything.
anything in a way. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if I just sat here saying gobbledygook over and over again for an hour,
Yeah, I know. Nobody would want to listen to you. Okay.
probably
Yeah.
not. I mean, it's not a very fun conversation, is it really? The words with the message, or the words of the communication, they can help to illuminate miscomprehensions and misunderstandings, but that's not, of course, not going to be in any way helpful for the apparent individual, because it's not there.
Yeah, it's the limitation of language. Is that it?
Yeah, well, it is, yes. I mean, ultimately it is. Yeah. The communication is energetic.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
But
But
some
the
words,
mind-
some words could be misleading. Some words
Yeah.
could give the wrong impression of what's being talked about. And I think there are some words that can come closer to creating an impression of what's being talked about. But really, the whole time the words are happening, then it's just, there's something in it, seemingly energetic, happening. And I think most people who do resonate with this communication would report that there is something, some intuitive, deeper sort of resonance or draw to the communication, but they couldn't really say what that was. Certainly when I was a seeker and I came across, it was Jim I heard talking first of all. The words were intellectually repulsive. What was being said was intellectually repulsive, and it went against everything I thought I knew, or everything I thought I'd found out about myself already, or the world, reality, whatever. All of the progress I imagined I'd been making along my spiritual journey. So it was the words, the concepts in the communication were absolutely repulsive. Yet there was just something that was beyond the mind here, beyond the words, that was drawing me to this message. It wasn't drawing me to the message, of course, but yeah. So something energetic. about that. But that's not the case for everyone.
Mm.
That can have the effect of being repulsive energetically for some people as well.
Yeah.
And they sometimes call me and tell me how repulsive it is.
Yeah.
or yell at
Okay.
me. I've only had one person yell at me. It's not that bad.
So far.
So far, yeah. I'm not very popular yet. That may change, yeah. Mm,
Mm. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
thank you. And I think there's another hand up. Would you like to unmute yourself? And
I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you, yes. Oh, you've gone.
I'm here again.
Hello again.
Hello again. You said that the separation, it's not a thought, it's not a belief.
No, has nothing to do with any kind of mental constructs, has nothing to do with thoughts or beliefs. No, absolutely not. No.
So what is separation?
It's separation seems to be, it seems to arise with this contracted sense to be a someone, or for there to be something here. Because as soon as there is this impression of something here, it then sort of automatically creates the sense or impression that there is something here and everything else is not here.
So the sense of doership.
The individual is separation. The individual doesn't create separation. The individual is separation.
And when the shift is happening, the sense of separation disappears.
Apparently, yes, but only in the story, because what's revealed in the end is that there was no separation to overcome, there was no separation to fall away, and there is no individual to fall away.
And the experience in the end that dead is just an experience, right?
But that there is someone experiencing, yes,
Yeah.
that's part of the illusion. Yeah.
But the experience goes and the sense of separation can come back.
Well, apparently it can in some people. Yeah, there can be glimpses. People talk about glimpses. Certainly there were glimpses here, or apparently there were glimpses here. But glimpses are still happening in the dream story because there just isn't an individual. So there isn't something falling away and then coming back and then falling away. That's all still happening really as part of the dream story. That's the glimpses still seem to be happening along a timeline or on a journey. But yes, that does seemingly happen, reportedly happen, that there can be a kind of a sudden sort of quite profound relaxation of that contracted sense of self. And then it's like something that's still there can suddenly go, ooh, don't like this, and it can all just sort of come back again, it seems. But that's not a person coming and going. In the end of the individual, or the death of the individual, is the absolute obviousness that it was just never there. It was never existing at all, not in any form, not as a true self or a false self or being awareness, or it's just not there at all.
But this can happen also in a glimpse.
Mm.
Right?
Yes, seemingly, yeah. There can be a glimpse of what we could call the natural reality. For me, it seems to create the impression of an artificial reality which is this sort of dualistic world, yeah. And then there can just be a sudden falling away, yeah. I mean, you'll hear it talked about quite a lot. It can be sudden, the veil can just sort of almost, so to speak, seemingly drop, and then, oh, wow, it just everything. And after come back. And then it can seemingly come back. Yeah. That's just energy doing whatever. The apparent shift is energetic. It's an apparent energetic shift from a contracted sense of being to boundlessness.
Yeah.
That's the apparent shift. And then what's recognized in that, oh, someone's trying to come in. What's recognized in that is that there was never an individual there, and all there is boundlessness. And it was just seemingly taking the form of a contracted energy.
So actually, we don't really know the difference between that and glimpse.
Yeah. No, of course not. That's again, part of the illusion is that there is glimpse and then not glimpse.
Yeah.
If you've ever had a glimpse, this is still that glimpse. It's just for some reason, or for no reason, something is creating the impression that this is now not glimpse, that there is a glimpse and not glimpse, that there is an actual natural reality and then an artificial reality. That's all the dream. It's just this. There can't be a glimpse, not a real glimpse. There can't be a this that is one way and then suddenly another way, because it is just this.
After you have the, let's say, final realization, if you can say it like this, the depth.
Yeah.
All, as I noticed, all the people just completely are a little bit out of the world. They don't work anymore. They practically
Right.
start teaching.
Right.
But the question is different. The question is, can you continue to work?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
In the middle of London.
Yeah, of course.
Still be
Yeah.
there?
Yes, because there isn't a real death. There isn't a real end. It was never happening. It's just like, it's just never happening. So there isn't actually an end to something. So in that sense, nothing changes at all because it's just not there.
Only that we actually don't have any example, don't we?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Because it's the idea that the world pulled you back or pulled you down, right?
The world will pull you down.
Yeah.
Did you say? I'm not quite sure what you mean. Well, it's nothing to do with sort of how this is appearing or how this is feeling, apparently. It's nothing to do with that at all. It's just when the end of the individual is the absolute obviousness that it never existed at all. So how can that which never existed at all come back? How can it then be a case of, oh, I've got to go to work. Oh, I've now fallen away and everything's wonderful, but I've got to go to work on Monday, which means everything's going to be shit, and that means I'm going to be back. No, that's the dream.
Mm. Did you fall back?
Well, no, because there just is no one. I don't see how something that just isn't there, that just obviously isn't there, could then suddenly come back. Someone, I think I was talking about this a while back, and someone brought up the story of the snake and the rope. Have you ever heard that? I think it's quite a famous sort of parable, isn't it? The seeker walking along the road and sees a snake, and then there's a bolt of lightning, and all of a sudden he sees that the rope, sees that this snake that was on the path in front of him is actually a piece of rope. And even when the lightning's not there, there's just no way that once that's been seen, there's just no way that the rope can then become the snake again. But of course, there is no snake or rope, is what I would add to that. What's recognized in the end is that there is neither a snake nor a rope. So there isn't an apparent individual just changing form into something else. No, it's just not there.
I wonder if all this has been, let's say, recognized in a glimpse. What's not a glimpse?
It can be seemingly, yes. Yeah, it can be. Yeah, I do have people report that they say, well, you know, I had a glimpse and it was just obvious that there was no one here and there was no one having the glimpse. And I can't even really tell you anything about that glimpse other than it appeared to happen. And they can only call me and say they've had a glimpse when the sense of me has come back, of course. Otherwise it wouldn't be a glimpse. It would just be all over. But again, all over is never happened.
So the teaching, it's not actually in a way to maintain that continuity.
Well, there isn't a teaching,
Yeah.
because it isn't about anything. It isn't about something. It's not about anything changing at all. The message, if we even want to call it that, is that this is already home. This is already nothing being everything. This is already wholeness. This is already whole and complete. The one that experiences this as being something separate is an illusion. It's not real. It's not actually happening. So in that sense, home is never lost. And the seeker is spending all of its time wandering around looking for home, and the whole time it's never left. It's just never gone anywhere.
So, sorry, the last question.
Sure.
The separation has nothing to do with religious, with good and bad and
No. It's got it's got nothing to do with any kind of way of being. Religion and sort of traditions are really just sort of responses to the sense of being separate. And part of that sort of being an individual is being faced with the knowing of one's apparent death. So then the individual comes up with sort of concepts and ideas and belief systems, which can turn into religions and so on, about what's going to happen when I die, and it's all there to satisfy the needs of the seeker, which is to know what this is and what's happening and what the self is and what's going to happen when I die and what's life about, what's my meaning, what's my purpose. These are all, that's all the sort of neuroticism of the individual, which is all a part of the illusion that there is an individual in the first place. There is no self. So there is no death.
right. Thank you so much, Neil.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anita, did you have your hand up next? I can see you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a question.
Okay.
Yeah. It's clear that this boundless energy is always there.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm touched.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's nothing behind it, and there's nothing steering it. It's not, there's no intention. Boundless energy has no intention and isn't going somewhere, because it is boundless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes, you know, about pain, sometimes there is pain in the body,
Yeah.
and sometimes I can feel it just as pain.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's, you know, it's not there anymore. And sometimes I still have a feeling that I am dealing with that pain.
Mm.
So it's switching.
And pain sort of has a contracted feel to it, but actually pain is boundlessness appearing as pain.
Yeah.
Pain is unconditional freedom appearing as pain.
Thank
And
you.
pain doesn't know anything about an individual, it's just pain.
Mhm, mhm.
Boundlessness doesn't know anything about an individual, and it doesn't know anything about itself. It's just boundless, infinite, absolute. Appearing as whatever is arising. It's not limited,
Yeah, it can
and
arise
it's
as
not contained
everything.
by
Yes.
anything.
Yeah.
Of course. Yes, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, Anita. Was it Nancy next?
Hi.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, so the me or the self, could you say, or would you say that it's like an overlay?
Kind of, as a story, yes. Yeah, it seems to create an artificial layer to everything, an additional kind of artificial layer. Yeah. Yeah, but only apparently, of course.
And so the dream, so-called dream world, once you realize that there's this overlay, the dream world has no.
Well, you are that apparent overlay if we're going with this idea of an overlay. So the individual can never get out of that in order to see that as what it is. And if it thinks it can, then it's just fooling itself. Because it isn't really there at all, of course. So the dream is that there is an overlay.
But it doesn't really exist.
No, of course not. No. That's boundlessness appearing as that, whatever that is, that limited sort of sense. Yeah. That's
And-
unconditionally free as well.
Wow.
Which is why nothing could possibly happen. It doesn't need to.
Thank you. I know there's more here that I want to ask you, but
Oh, sure, yeah.
it's not coming. So
That's all
thank
right.
you.
Yeah, that'll be there for as long as it's apparently there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to speak to you. Okay. If you've got something to say, now's the time to say it.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Neil.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you,
Thank
Neil.
you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Put you on the
Thank
all on
you.
gallery. Oh, there you all are. I can see you.
Thank you so much.
Great. Yeah,
You
thanks
so
for coming.
much. Mm.
Right, bugger off then. Bye, everyone. Thank you for coming. Take care.
Bye.
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 Take care.
Bye.